Good evening, Anne Arundel County. Good evening, America. Welcome to Promoting Community Conversation and Discovery. I'm your host, Anthony Bynum. The name of our production company is the Glen Burnie Players. These are exciting times here in Anne Arundel County. These are exciting times. I'm going to talk about some of that excitement. First of all, we're dealing with the remnants of Hurricane Deborah, I believe it's called. So we're getting some rain, but we needed the water. It's supposed to blow out of here for tomorrow, and we'll have a sunny weekend. That's what I hear. That's exciting. And we needed the water anyway. This is a chance to the grass to grow, the roots to open up. All kinds of positive things happen with water. So as far as this episode is concerned, here we go. Listen, change it. Time to do my best, Ted Baxter. We want to give credit where credit is due. So let's take a look at our references. We want to thank the fine people at the Arts Council of Anne Arundel County. We want to thank Wikipedia. We want to thank Google Images, the Museum for Poets and Poetry, and Patch. Upcoming events. Well, the main one is this. Jazzing with the Ushers is done. It's ready. It's out there now. I'm going to talk about affiliates in a little bit, but the easiest way to see the newest show is just to type in your browser, episode 13, Jazzing, Jazzin, with the Ushers. It'll come right up. We had a lot of fun doing this one. But there's some other upcoming events also, though. So tomorrow at the Maryland House presents Brent Burkhead. He's a talented saxophone player. You probably go to the Maryland Hall website, find out more about that. There's probably a minimal charge for that. Also, though, there's something that caught my attention. I'm going to check this out. It's a living history. It's the volunteer infantry over at it's actually called the Civil War 1st Maryland Volunteer Infantry. These guys are reenactors. We're going to be over there on Pinckney Street in Annapolis tomorrow between 10 and 4. I enjoy history, all history, good, the bad, the ugly. So hopefully I'll get a chance to meet some of them and maybe we can have a future segment, a future show regarding that. Okay. Also, now this one's very interesting and it's very interesting actually in a lot of ways. The National Shapewear Day is going to be held at Benson Hammond House. This is where they do the Strawberry Festival. It's 11 o'clock tomorrow. This is very interesting here because what Shapewear Day is, I believe it's an exhibit of the, how can we put this, of the undergarments that women wore in the beginning of the 20th century. Yeah, we're in 21st century, 20th century. There's nothing sexy about it, but it's kind of neat. There was a lot of clothes that were being worn. They had different, I don't know if this will be interesting. I don't know if I'll be able to get over there. I don't know if women come in wearing this stuff or there's just pictures. I'm not sure. But it really caught my attention. It really that sounds interesting. But anyway, I digress. We also want to thank our affiliates. So Anne Arundel Cable TV, thank you for airing a show. And I've sent the show over to them just yesterday. Greenbelt Cable Access out of PG County. I've sent the show to them. Sheila's already gotten back to me. They're going to be running this, queuing it up for the following week. So probably we make this week's lineup of the following week. Amherst Media, they acknowledged getting the show. The way it works there is they keep a show on until it's replaced with another show. We are time slot at Amherst Media, which I believe is channel 99. And Amherst is, oh no, it's actually channel 16. It'll get that Saturday evening slot at like 7:30. Very exciting very exciting. Very, very, very exciting. Manhattan Neighborhood Network, they're running the show. They'll run it for 3 times starting next week. They'll run 3 different episodes. And now this one said 2 different channels. So this is all cable access. It's all community television. But this is the best way for us to get our show out now as we try to move, hopefully, to a bigger stage. Okay, but even if we move to a bigger stage, I don't plan on doing away with those guys. They've been great. You know, if you As a side note, if this is something you're interested in, these are resources that are available. Your tax dollars are paying for these resources. So, you should use them if that's what you're trying to do. We want to thank our sponsor slash underwriter, the Cleaning Chef. You can see more information about them in the credits. Now, as far as the show is concerned, I'm most admired. This week, I wanted to take a look at a great comedian. He's still around. I'm bringing his picture up right now. Go to share. Here he is. I'm talking about Jimmy Walker Jr., the person known as JJ in Good Times. Now, you look at the pictures, one picture in the bottom left, that's maybe a Jimmy Walker Jr., but it's not the Jimmy Walker Jr. that I'm talking about. Okay, so let's talk about him, right? He was born 6/25/1947 in New York, Brooklyn, but I think he was raised in the Bronx. That's what I read here. So he did a number of different things, but the big one was Good Times. 5 years, national television. And there are ramifications from that we'll talk about in a little bit. But he did others also. In Let's Do It Again, he was with John Amos, the actor from Good Times. And that could be somewhat interesting too when I read a little more about their relationship. The greatest thing that almost happened with James Earl Jones. Let's go look at his history a little bit. So through the New York State funded program, which is called Search for Education, Evaluation, and Knowledge, he was able to continue his studies. I don't exactly know what that means. Does it mean that he graduated from high school and he wanted something else, but didn't necessarily want to go to college? I don't quite know what that meant. That makes sense to me though. So through their help, he entered into the field of radio engineering. Maybe he took some courses and he got to start with WRVR. So maybe that means he was running the soundboard. Technology changes. In those days, that would have been how he would have gotten in the door. Or that's probably what he may have been doing. But he might have been doing something else. I don't exactly know. It's not very clear. But what we know is this. Before that, back in 1964, he was working over there at the Yankee Stadium. He worked the 1964 World Series. Excuse me. He became full-time with WRBR in 1967 as a radio station of Riverside Church. In 1969, he started his stand-up. And he was good because he made appearances on Rowan Martin's Laugh-In and the Jack Paar Show. The Jack Paar Show was the Tonight Show before Johnny Carson. Okay, so he was an up-and-coming guy. People knew who this guy was. He was making an imprint. They developed Good Times. Norman Lear developed that show, the executive producer. And I believe that Jimmy Walker, I'm not quite sure how this went. If Esther Roll was the first person cast or Jimmy Walker, I'm not quite sure. But I have a little background here because I actually met Bernadette Stannis, and I was watching interviews with Jimmy Walker recently just to kind of give me some more background. Now, the term dynamite, the catchphrase, it wasn't his idea. One of the producers slash directors, a guy named John Rich, came up with it. He said, you got to have a go-to line, right? You got to have a go-to. And Walker and Norman Lear, they were somewhat skeptical, but it caught on. And he was good, but that, I mean, he was very good. But some of that rubbed the Esther Roll's character and also John Amos's character, rubbed them the wrong way. He did not get along well with Esther Roll. As a matter of fact, somewhat sadly, he's the only cast member who did not appear at her funeral. John Amos wasn't happy about it. He left the show. He was the first one to leave the show. But they must have reconciled some sort of way if they did a movie together. So they must have kind of figured it out, right? I mean, let's continue. In 1975, so while the show is happening, he's also working on the weekends over at R&B radio station out of LA called KAGB 103.9 as a weekend personality, right? So he understands you got to get it. You got to keep it. You got to promote. All the great ones are always promoting themselves, you know. He remained hot in the 80s, but he didn't get another sitcom. He talked about that in the interviews. He did lots of guest appearances. He did tons of guest appearances. But and plus he's always doing his stand-up. And in the interviews that I watched, he actually had a person a agency for a little bit of time. And some guys like Jay Leno, as a young Jay Leno, and David Letterman, may have worked for him and worked with him for a period of time. But he says that for him, he'd go on parts, and he wanted to do another sitcom. Today he would do another sitcom, give him the opportunity. But people look at him and they say, well, you're a funny guy, but you're JJ. And so many parts, so many opportunities are just lost because of that. But he says that's the business. He's not upset about it. He wishes it was different, but he's not upset about it. He's a happy guy. I saw those interviews. He's a happy, well-adjusted individual, the best that I can tell. Never hear anything crazy about the guy. Never hear anything crazy about the guy. There was a little more I wanted to get in here. Now, he's never been married, doesn't have any children, lots of girlfriends. I thought there was something else I wanted to get in here about Jimmy Walker, but it seems to have escaped me. If I remember later, I might bring it back up. But for all those reasons, Jimmy Walker this week is our most admired. Yes. So we're going to go forward. Talk about something of consequence regarding Anne Arundel County. Here we go. The Annapolis Maritime Museum and Park. I haven't been here, but now that I know about it, I'm going to try to find a way to get over there. Now, this is very nice because it's showing you different pictures. It doesn't show you all. That is probably the boat I'm going to talk about. That's probably the where is it? The Wilma Lee. That's probably it right there. Let's talk a little bit about the museum. So it educates the area, anyone who goes there, about maritime heritage and the Chesapeake's ecology, rather, through exhibits, programs, and events. The center serves about 14,000 people a year. And I think it's like $5 to get in. It's very inexpensive. I remember seeing that. It has a volunteer board and 350 dedicated volunteers. Now you can cruise on the Wilma Lee, and that's what that is right there. It was built in 1940 and is one of the few remaining Chesapeake Bay skipjacks. It's a special kind of boat. You live on the Chesapeake or near the Chesapeake, that means water. People are in the boats and ships and that kind of thing. So this looks very interesting to me. I think I'm going to have to get over there. I'm going to have to get over there. I bet it's right there. Yeah. See, I've seen it before. It's right on the water. I know exactly where that is. It's right on the water. Go down Church Circle, continue till you get to the water. That's where it is. That's where it is. So, as one more thing to do, we're going to stop the share. Okay, so we always like to have something that is, oh, now I remember. So one of the criticisms, most likely, about Good Times is there just weren't any Black writers. Norman Lear wanted Black writers to help, but there just weren't any in the pipeline. He wrote to different Black colleges and universities, and finally they found somebody. And he said, write me a script. He wrote a script. They liked the script. They actually shot it. Good time. I don't remember this person's name. I'm gonna have to backtrack on that. But they shot 1 or 2 episodes with this one other writer without doing a lot of editing, so, this person, as the story goes, after Good Times was over, he's still floating around Hollywood, writing scripts when he can. And the Cosby Show, right? So they took a lot of flack in Good Times. They're just too poor. Yes, they have a great family bond, but they're too poor. They took a lot of heat from people who watched the show. You got to do better. You got to do better. And they tried to do a little bit with that. They brought in a football player who was going to be Thelma's husband. I think they did marry, but he had a terrible knee injury. back to that's it. I can't play football now. So I kind of get the gist why some of the criticism came. I just remember good time. Show's funny. I just thought good storylines, but there was a lot of good humor. That's my take on Good Times. So as the story goes, this guy's floating around. Cosby Show is killing it. Everybody in the Cosby Show is killing it every year, getting awards and awards, and making all kinds of money for NBC. And all these other guys like, well, we need to come up with something ourselves. We need something. And so they got a script. This guy wrote a script for a new show. And it was about a dysfunctional family because there was a lot of backlash because Cosby was so popular. And it was a script about a dysfunctional family that couldn't do anything right. And they looked at the script, looked at the writer. Oh man, this is great stuff. The first couple executives, I think of one of this, I think it might have been, well, I don't want to say the name of the network because that'll give it away. They looked at it and said, oh, but we can't do this. We can't do this with another Black family. We can't do this. Then some other guys came in. They looked at this. Oh man, this is hilarious. We can't do this. We can't do this. We can't do this. No. We how beat up Norman Lear got over Good Times. No, we can't do this. Another executive comes in. Oh, this is great stuff. I said, oh man, we can't do this. Then someone had the idea. I said, well, why don't we just cast it as a white family? Yes, married with children. That's the story. So really, you look at the writers for the guy who developed it, maybe that's our guy, right? Maybe that's our guy. But let's get on with our poem. So I like to have something that is kind of files in line with what we're doing, kind of the theme. So this is called Dynamite. It's written by Anders Carlson Wee. And here's what it says. My brother hits me with a stick, so I whip a choke chain across his face. We're playing a game called Dynamite, where everything you throw is a stick of dynamite. Unless, of course, it's a pine. Pine sticks are rifles, and pine cones are grenades. But everything else is dynamite. So I run down the driveway, and back behind the garage where we keep the leopard frogs. They're in buckets of water with logs and rock islands, right? So the frogs can hop from there to there. That's not in there, but I'm just trying to explain it to you. When he comes around the corner, the blood is pouring out of his nose and down his neck, and he has a hammer in his hand. I pick up his favorite frog and say, if you come any closer, I'll squeeze. He tells me I won't, and he keeps coming. I say, a hammer isn't dynamite. He reminds me that everything is dynamite. And again, that was written by Anders Carlson Wee. It was very entertaining. So the big takeaway, the big takeaway, Jazzing with the Ushers is available. Oh, as a matter of fact, there's one other location. We have started a website. It's called theglenburneyplayers.com. It's just being created. However, all our shows are cataloged. So if you go to glenburneyplayers.com, that website will come up. And you can just go to the second page, watch an episode. All 14 episodes there. 13 episodes there. You can watch them on at the Glen Burnie Players 18 at the Glen Burnie Players 8542. That's one of the YouTube channels. The other YouTube channel is at Anthony Bynum 1948. But all the episodes are on these YouTube channels. So for everyone here at the Glen Burnie Players, again, my name is Anthony Bynum. Until next time, bye-bye.